The crime of drunk driving in Arkansas is something that I see a lot and handle a lot. It's part of my Arkansas criminal defense practice. It's called DWI, driving while intoxicated. Some places it's DUI, like here in Tennessee, where my office is located, or Mississippi, where I also practice. Some places call it DUI, but in Arkansas it's DWI, driving while, not driving under the influence. Okay, so a DWI in Arkansas, what is that about? What's the punishment? What might happen? If you've been arrested, then that means the police had some reason to pull you over or encounter you. Maybe you were parked in your car, and based on that initial interaction, they developed probable cause to believe that you were driving under the influence, that you were impaired somehow by something, either alcohol or some kind of drug or controlled substance or narcotic. Okay, so you've been charged, probably taken to jail, spent a few hours in jail. Now you have a court date coming up. The punishment for DWI in Arkansas, and I'm going to focus on first offense for this video. First time offenders, somebody with no prior, no prior drunk driving charge. It carries jail time. The law says the judge may put you in jail for no less than 24 hours and up to 1 year. All right, so it's you may be put in jail. It's not you shall be put in jail. Like here in Tennessee, a conviction, even for first offense DUI, is a mandatory 48 hours. You shall be put in jail for at least 48 hours. Over in Arkansas, it's not required. It's not mandatory time, but you may be jailed for a minimum of 24 hours. A lot of times, if somebody pleads guilty or is found guilty of their DWI in Arkansas, the judge will suspend the sentence. I'm not promising you that. If there are some bad things about the case, some what we call aggravating factors, if there was a wreck, somebody was hurt, if there's a child in the car, those are things the judge can consider and could give you jail time. But a lot of standard first offense DWIs in Arkansas probably have a pretty good chance of getting your jail time suspended. So you're not going to serve any jail time, okay? Not a promise. But that's pretty typical. License suspension. If you have an Arkansas license, they will suspend it for 6 months. Now, where I practice, it's at the intersection of a lot of different states. So I frequently do drunk driving cases in Arkansas, but I'm representing somebody with a Mississippi license. Or I'm doing a Mississippi DUI representing somebody with a Tennessee license. So you have to look at your home state. And here, again, right across the river is Arkansas and Tennessee and Mississippi. So, but if you have an Arkansas license, your DWI is going to cost you 6 months, a 6-month suspension of your license. Now, if you are a Tennessee license holder and you go over to Arkansas and get busted for DWI, that's going to get reported to Tennessee. You could lose your license for 1 year under Tennessee law. So even though you got your DUI in Arkansas, your DWI in Arkansas, if you brought that Tennessee license over there, then it's going to be under Tennessee law, and again, that's 1 year, okay? But for Arkansas holders, which is what I'm trying to focus on here, but I keep talking about other states, it's 6 months. It's a 6-month license suspension. There's fines. There's always fines on a drunk driving case. The minimum, I believe, is $150 minimum fine. That could be higher depending on the judge, depending on the court that you go to. Can you get your DUI or your DWI in Arkansas off your record later on? No. If you're convicted or if you plead guilty, no. They don't have any kind of expungement process afterward. If you want a chance of keeping it off your record, you've got to go to trial. You got to have a trial and fight that. And that brings me to my next point. If you're a commercial driver, you pretty much have no option but to go to trial if you want any chance, because they're tough on commercial drivers. And if you you probably know, if you're a CDL holder, that if you get a drunk driving charge, you're going to lose your license. So you have to fight that thing, get it thrown out. That's the only way you have a chance of keeping your license, keeping your job, keep driving a truck for a living. That's kind of an overview of Arkansas DWI law, some basic punishments. There are more things that I could get into, like why were you stopped? Did they have probable cause? How was the breath test administered? Were you given field sobriety tests? And how did the officer instruct you on those? Those are things that I've talked about. Those are things that can kind of be applied to any jurisdiction. But what I talked about earlier are some specific laws and penalties regarding DWI in Arkansas. So if you have gotten a drunk driving charge in the state of Arkansas, give me a call.